In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a service called NaNote, which is essentially a way to have your own hosted BrainBlocks payment forms. So if you don't know by now, BrainBlocks is a really nice service to have a Pay by Nano payment button on your own website. And this gives the user a little bit of a nicer experience to send you Nano instead of just pasting something like donate to this address at the bottom of your site. You can instead have a payment button there as well. In addition, this is nice if you have products on your site. You can set each product to a certain amount and then they just use this to check out. And then BrainBlocks allows you to have verification on your site as well. So you would integrate this and then you would check to see has this payment successfully gone through. And you have ways to detect, okay, the user purchased this product or service, and then go from there. This is great, but what it requires is a little bit of work to integrate it into your website, verify the transaction, and do whatever you need to do from there. So what NaNote allows you to do is essentially have a form that you link to, and then people would fill out how much they want to pay you, maybe give a note if you want them to, and they can easily make a payment, and you don't have to host it yourself. It's all hosted from the NaNote server. So an example of this would be something like on the Go Do Your Own Research website, where I could scroll down here. Normally you would see something like a donation address that you would send Nano to, but instead we have a link for donations. And you can see send a payment to Go Do Your Own Research. You can have a message here, thanks for your support. You put in how much Nano you want to give this service. You put your name in, whatever other message you want to say. And then from there, you can actually complete your payment and send that over. So that might be a little bit of a nicer interface that you want instead of just something like, send donations to this address. You can get a little more information about who your customer is, who's giving you this donation, and it makes your customer happy because they can interact with you a little bit better. So if I go back, what I'm going to do is just set up a free account on NaNote, and I'll just use my learnnano.com address, put in a password, register, there we go. So, and a payment page is simply one of these pages that someone would go to send a donation. Now, most of the time, you're only going to need one, maybe two payment pages, unless you have a lot of different companies, a lot of different services that you're doing this to. Really, unless there's a bunch of different forms that you need for whatever reason, one payment page would probably be fine. So I'm going to make a new payment page here, and I'll just call this Learn Nano as the payment page. Now, this is kind of similar to the company name. So the company name is actually what would show up to the user. Whereas this is more so for my own purposes. Do I want this to be, maybe I want two payment pages, one for, donations, and another one for maybe an actual service that I'm selling. So the company would be, let's see, Learn Nano. The payment details, Nano receive address. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy the address that I want any payments that come into this form. I want to make sure that they go to this address. So I'm just going to go to my Nano Vault here and grab one of these test accounts I have set up. So for an example, I have one called website, and I think that would be fine for this example. I'll jump back over to NaNote. I'll put my address in there. So now I know that's where any payments are going to go to. Now this next option here is amount fixed. Now this is pretty cool because you can use this to either sell a service or product where you only want the user to be able to fill in a specific amount. Maybe you want them to only be able to pay 2 Nano on this page and they can't set their own amount. So that works as well. You can also keep this open and say users can choose the payment amount. And then along with that, you could say maybe by default I want it to be 0.1 Nano. So you could set that up as well. And then page content or instructions. What text do you want to show up at the top of this page for when a user that comes to the site? So right now I'll just say, happy to accept donations. And I'll hit save. We have an option to upgrade this payment page, and there's a bunch of features that come with that. For now, I'm just going to say NAS Simple Page is fine. Click OK, and there we go. So now I see my payment page, and I can also see how many payments or total Nano that I've received through this page at any given time. And I can actually test this out just by clicking the Learn Nano Donations link. I see the URL that I'm given that I would send out or link to my site in order to take donations, and I can see that it defaulted the payment to 0.01, but I could change that to something else like 0.001 if I wanted to. So let me give this a test run. I'll just say my name is Test. The note that I'm going to put in here is just, we'll say howdy, continue to payment, and I'll pay 001 Nano. So I have an account set up for what would essentially be a user on my site, and they have a little bit of Nano in there. I'm just going to hit send on that and make sure I'm sending from that user. The account to send to, I treat this just like you would with any other BrainBlocks payment button. So I'll copy that address, paste that in. The amount is going to be 0.001. Let me just double check that, 001. And there we go, hit send. I'm unlocked, confirm and send. Great. So successfully sent. Let's jump back over to my payment page where I can wait for it to finish up. And you can see the details here. Status is pending payment. So we're waiting on that. The test, name is Test. The note is howdy. You can see once it finishes, it says successful payment to Learn Nano. And then I see the status is payment complete. We have our own internal confirmation number, and this would be something that you could potentially look up in NaNote if the customer said, hey, I paid through this. But more specifically, we have a transaction block, and that way you can actually see the transaction on the network. And the customer would be able to save this, look it up, make sure that it's sent correctly. And then, of course, our payment information. So the nice thing is once a payment has gone through, you're going to see that on your end as well. So if I go back to my NaNote dashboard and I refresh, I'm going to see that I received 0.001 amount of Nano from one payment. And I can click on Manage and I can see a little bit of a dashboard for this page. And then also if I look at my email, I can see that I received an email from NaNote saying, hey, you just received a payment for this page, this amount, and this was the information that came in. So right away you get a little bit of information about the person that actually donated money, rather than just by chance seeing it in your account, a week, 2 weeks later. Now I mentioned that there was a premium payment page option, and this is something that's very cool as well. So if I see this option here, upgrade page, and this is also available if I go to my payment pages, this little upgrade icon here. What I can do is I can upgrade this payment page, and you can see there's a lot of different features here. We can get more information about the customer, their email address, their physical address, phone number if we wanted to. We can make custom fields or questions. We see a little bit more information about a payment history. We can export the payment history, and we can also make our own payment URL. So instead of this long string /pay/ whatever the ID is, I can just send them to something like /pay/ Learn Nano, and it's going to take them right to this page. And I think that also gives a little bit more of a secure feeling for the user as well, because they're not looking at this long string. So to test that out, what I'm going to do is just click pay. I'm going to send this to this BrainBlocks address here, and let's go back to my account. So now I'm going to say to this account, I'm going to send, I have 1 Nano in this website wallet, so I'll send that, send 1 Nano, and send that out. There we go. So successfully sent. I should be able to go back to this upgrade page, give it a second to confirm. There we go. So now you can see we have a bunch of different options here now that we've upgraded our page. So a lot of this stuff up at the top here is pretty similar, but if I scroll down, we now have the custom page URL. Now I actually already have a Learn Nano page with my other account. So what I'm going to do is make a learn Nano, we'll say donate. A redirect URL option also pops up. And this is nice if you want to send the user back to your website when they're done, maybe at a specific page. And you can see another thing we note here is if I do set this up, what it would do is it would send me back to the URL that I provide, but it would also in the URL, it would add get parameters to say something like the block ID that was successful or the amount that was sent. And then this way you can do a little bit of confirmation on your end to redirect them if you want to. And then finally we have display fields here. So if I wanted to, I could pass along an invoice number, a company name, an email address. Let's just say I want an email address. We'll require an email address maybe. Then we can also add a custom field in here. So maybe I want to get a little bit more information from anyone who's donating to my site. So maybe I want to say something like, what do you like about Learn Nano? And then I can hit save, and there we go. So now I can see I have a little green icon here letting me know that this is a premium payment page. If I go back to it now, it's now taking me to to NaNote/pay/learn Nano donate. So I have a new URL. I have additional fields here that I can get information from the customer as well. I'm going to add one more payment in to test this out. Again, I'll just set this to a lower amount. All right, so I'll just say Jeff, info@test.com. It's great. And hello. And let's go ahead and send some money that way. And you can see these details, even though we added new fields, they're just going to show up at the bottom, depending on what you pick. Great, so take that, count to send, 0.02, send, and confirm. So that sends over. I'm going to go back here. There we go, payment successful, and it refreshes, and now we're back at this successful payment to Learn Nano page. And again, just like before, we have our confirmation number, our transaction block, and all of our information, and this gets emailed just like it did before. Now, as an administrator for this account, what I can do is go back into my accounts, and just like we had it before, I can go to Manage Page, except this time I have a list of received payments. Now that I have an upgraded account, so I can go into any one of these payments, see that data directly. Then the other thing we can do is I can also export this data out. So if you want to import it into some other system that you have, you'll have a CSV file of any of the payments that come through, along with any information that comes in. Now, one of the other interesting things that we can do with this is create something to the effect of an invoice. So if I go back to my payment pages, and I could make a new payment page. I'm actually, just to save some time, I'm going to use the same donations page, but I'm just going to change it around a little bit. I'm going to go into Manage, hit Edit, and I'm going to say Learn Nano Invoice. So imagine that I'm sending this out to a customer. Receive address is fine. The default amount, I'm actually going to get rid of pay your invoice below. I'll change this to Learn Nano Invoice. And let's add a couple things here. So let's add an invoice number, then make that required. The name is fine, company name. Maybe we even want to grab a city, state, zip code kind of thing. Note details, I'll keep that in there. And we don't need a custom field. So I'll hit save. So going to this page now, obviously one thing I could do is I could take this page and just send it right to my customer who I want to send an invoice for. But the other thing you can do is you can make this process a lot simpler for your customer. So all they have to do is just click on whatever you send them, they hit pay, and then they're done. So to do that, what I'm going to do is pre-fill a little bit of information out for this customer. So maybe I already know their invoice is ABC123. This is for my customer, say Acme, or Mr. Acme. Maybe the company name's Acme. The email address is mr@acme.com. I have their street address, city, state, zip code, and we can leave the note blank. And I'll say continue. And what you'll see is whenever you go to this secondary payment page, we already have this information filled out, and it also has a unique URL. So what I could actually do is send them this URL directly. And if I copy that, close out, and open up a new tab, I could send them that URL. They're going to open it up, and they're going to already see this information pre-populated for them. The only thing they have to do is fill out this amount of Nano. So you would send that to them, the customer fills that out, and what was it, 0.03. So all they have to do is send that payment directly, and they're going to see it get verified right away and show up as completed. You're going to get an email just like you would before. And all of that other stuff is already done by the customer. Now, the cool thing about this is you don't have to make a ton of different pages for every customer, for every invoice. All it took was one premium payment page to set up my invoice. So you can sort of set this up like a template and then just pass it out to pre-fill it and send those links out to different customers. So that makes it very, very dynamic in the way you can use this tool.